Okay, so if you remember back last week on C-Day, we started talking about this chemical reaction lab, and we actually did the first two reactions in class today, and we watched the videos. So you should already have this area of your lab report filled out with your before, during, and after. And if you remember from last week, I said in your before, this is where you write down color, states of matter, that your reactants are to start off with. You might also want to keep track of how many reactants you have. Here is where you write what happens during the reaction, if there's bubbling, or if the reaction gets hot or cold, or if you notice something else happening, this is where you write that. And again, after the reaction, you need to again count how many products you have, and then again describe them. What color are they? What states of matter are they? And then what we're going to do today, after you do this for all 4 of our remaining reactions, you are then going to try to identify the reaction type that you have already made a hypothesis about. So you might refer back to that Google Classroom, to that document where you submitted what you thought the reaction type was, and kind of compare what you thought to, is that actually what happened? And then you need to start working on your balanced chemical equations. I already gave you the reactants, so basically you recopy down the reactants, and then using the definitions of the reaction types, you can try to figure out what your products are and then balance the equation. So we did the first two, so she already have that side. So we're going to work on the second part, or the back side of your worksheet. I gave this to you last week, so hopefully you still have it. If not, I have a few extra copies if you need one. Now, we are going to be completing the reactions 3 through 6 today in class. And so if you look at the center station, you will see that there's like 4 different areas, and they are labeled with a Post-it. You will have reaction 3 and 4 on the east side of the classroom, and reaction 5 and 6 on the west side of the center table. And they are in quadrants, and each little quadrant you will also notice has a waste beaker, because I want you guys to get in the habit of not dumping any waste down the sink. And we actually do have some pretty toxic waste today, so make sure that all of the waste goes into the waste containers. Also, I want you guys to make sure that you're always putting the lids on the bottles, because a lot of these will react with the humidity in the air and will decompose the reactants, and then you won't get the reactions that you're supposed to be getting. So for reaction 3, you are simply going to be taking 0.5 grams of copper sulfate, which is a blue solid, and you're going to be putting it into a test tube. And then you are going to literally be putting it over a Bunsen burner using your test tube tongs, which are in your drawer because you don't want to touch the hot glassware. And you're going to be putting it over a flame, and you're essentially going to observe what's happening. Did it bubble? Does it change colors? Is it producing condensation? So on and so forth. And so what I always tell you guys to do is hold your test tube at a diagonal, so that it will, if it's producing water in the vapor stage, it'll kind of start to condensate on the side of the test tube, so that you can record that in your data table. And experiment number 4, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking 2 milliliters of your hydrochloric acid, and you're going to be putting it in a test tube. And then what you're going to do is you're going to rip off about 2 centimeters of the magnesium ribbon that you see there. Now, do not put your magnesium in your test tube until you're ready. So I would carry your magnesium with you back to your station. And then what you're going to do is you're going to drop the magnesium ribbon down into the hydrochloric acid. And then your partner is going to grab a second larger test tube that'll fit over the top, and you're going to place the opening over the opening of the smaller test tube, so that it will collect some of the hydrogen gas that you're going to be testing. Because here in just a second, I'm going to show you a video where it shows you how to test to see what the identity is of the gas you're producing. So reactions 4, 5, and 6 all produce gas, and we need to know what the gas is. So you place that second larger test tube over the smaller one to trap the gas, so that you can complete a Flint test here in just a second. Okay, reaction 5 and 6 are very similar to reaction number 3. You just put the substance in the test tube and then you add heat, except this time you need to be trapping your gas. And please make note that if condensation is happening, you need to be writing that down. And you also need to make sure that you're trapping your gas just like in reaction 4, so that you can do the Flint test. Now, when it comes to the Flint test, you will have 3 different options. You will either have hydrogen, or you will have oxygen, or you will have carbon dioxide gas. And so here is a really quick video to kind of show you what to expect when you're looking at these Flint tests. All right, so if we're looking here, what he is going to do is he is going to take the flint and he put it in the fire, and this, whatever reaction he's doing, is producing oxygen gas. So when he sticks the flint down in there, it actually burns, and this time he actually blows the fire completely out and he sticks it back into the oxygen gas, and the flame actually returns. And that's what happens in an oxygen producing reaction. You stick the flint in there and it either reignite itself or it will burn a little bit brighter. Now, this test is really hard for you guys to get a positive reaction for, because oftentimes an oxygen is being produced, so is water, and the water will oftentimes put out your flame before it can reignite. So just make sure you're writing down really good observations, and we can talk about that on C-Day. Okay, now the second kind of gas that can be produced is hydrogen gas. And when you are producing hydrogen gas, you're actually going to get a really high-pitched, kind of almost more like a barking sound, and sometimes it can kind of startle you a little bit, so make sure you're prepared for it. But if you notice, try to listen to what sound is being made. So when he sticks this down in there, listen for the sound. Kind of makes a popping sound. So let's hear that one more time. Okay, so if you notice, it wasn't very loud in the video, but it's actually quite louder in person, and so I always want you guys to be prepared that one of these is going to produce that high-pitched sound, and so I don't want you to be startled when it happens and drop your test tube. So just be aware that one of the reactions will make a really loud noise, so that when you're doing the flint test, make sure you have a hold of your test tube and you don't accidentally drop it. Now, the third type of gas that is a possibility is a carbon dioxide gas. So let me scroll forward and let's see what happens when it's carbon dioxide. So when he, again, places the flame in the test tube, if it's carbon dioxide, the flame gets completely extinguished. So again, he's going to place it in there one more time, and the flame goes completely out. So to kind of, if we have hydrogen gas, we're going to get that barking noise when we do the flint test. If we have oxygen, it should reignite the flame or make the flame burn brighter. But again, this one is the hardest one for us to get a reaction for. So just do your best with writing down your reactions. And then lastly, if we have carbon dioxide, the flame will go out. Okay, now I need to make sure that you guys are following all lab procedures. You need to have your goggles on the entire time, regardless of if you are dealing with it or not, because we have hydrochloric acid out there, which even if you get it on your hands, you'll feel a little bit of irritation, so you definitely don't want that in your eyes. So make sure that you have your goggles on the whole time, and make sure, no matter if you're doing that part of the experiment or not, because people around you are also using it. So make sure you have your goggles on the whole time. Also, again, make sure you're putting your waste in the beakers provided at the center station. And when you are done, make sure that you clean up your area, put everything back where you found it, and make sure that you start working on your equations. And we will start talking about the lab report in class on C-Day.